To another edition of Ask Michael Ehline. This is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Hey, everybody, what's going on? So we got a really cool show for you tonight about the U.S. Post Office and potential false labeling of First Amendment auditors is dangerous by implication. We're going to talk a little bit about group defamation and inducement, libel, slander, potentially being able to sue the post office for characterizing auditors as domestic extremists, see if that's even possible. And then I've got a couple of panelists tonight. I got BZWatchdog, former Marine, and he's also an auditor. And then I got a former law enforcement officer, Ryan, on here in the house. And we're all hanging out here. Go ahead and say hi. Hi, guys.
Team DLZ in the house.
Yeah.
Team DLZ in the house.
And then we got in the sidebar, we got Chevy. Thanks, Chevy, for showing up. We've got Kevin. Thanks, Kevin, for showing up. Let's OTVO. Thanks for showing up. Give me a bunch of ones if you missed Chili. Let's go Press with Rancor. Let's go Good Citizen. Bunch of ones. Kevin Biernarski. Yes, you're all back in town. Mikey B. Yes, thanks for coming. Yeah, it is kicking off in France. Looks like there's a lot of people unhappy with all this forced mass immigration, and a lot of the locals are starting to fight back. Well, looks like in France and Britain, there's some problems like riots and stuff. It's getting out of hand. You know, people are getting upset about this big WEF agenda and the big one world government that everybody says is a conspiracy theory that we see happening right in front of our eyes. Amazing. Let's take a look.
Which one, 2030 or 2050?
Man, any of them. Right. Doesn't. Okay. So David Murphy, bunch of ones. Thanks. So guys, really quick, what I'm going to do is I want to get into a couple of things. What we're going to cover today is we're going to cover first really quick whether or not auditors could sue the post office for this really damning, really screwed up memo. And we're going to trace this memo back to August of 2022 from a Long Island audits video. Just a little part I want to show you where it looks like they had like a tailgate safety meeting there based upon a FOIA document that Basil got. This is my theory, that the document that Basil got from BZWatchdog got from freaking Washington, D.C. was the original master document. And I believe that other postal stations got the document similar to the Long Island audit document, and they created what we call in the industry like safety meetings or tailgate meetings where there was a meeting noticed. That's what I believe happened, and we're going to go through that really quick. And we're going to talk about whether or not saying those things about auditors, and we'll cover what those things were, is actionable defamation, libel, or slander, where you as an auditor could sue the post office for making you look bad, whether that's a case at all. This is highly unlikely, but there may be. We'll cover that. And then we're going to cover this other issue with our law enforcement guy. What is the deal with these agreements between post offices and local law enforcement? We see a lot of these auditor videos where the auditor says, hey, unless you can show me some kind of a jurisdictional arrangement or an agreement, some kind of document, you're walking on federal property with a gun. You're not supposed to be in here. You're violating federal law. And they get in a little scuffle or argument about that. We're going to talk about that and how that works. But really quick, guys, I just want to get through this slideshow really quick. So we know that the FBI just got in trouble for illegally spying on American patriots. And we know that the FBI was working with far left organizations like the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center and financial institutions like your bank to do data mining to look for people who are Christians, white males, gun owners, people who support the First Amendment, Second Amendment. What's this? Bass Pro Shops. If you shopped at Bass Pro Shops, if you donated money to a pro-legal immigration organization, if you support legal immigration, that put you on a list of potential domestic violent extremists. And that was the financial surveillance in the United States on how federal law enforcement commandeered financial institutions to spy on Americans. So we know that's absolutely going on. And then we have really just very quickly, I want to show you this. Hopefully I want to show you this video. And now this is going to be from Long Island Audits. It's based on an August 24th, 2022 memo. And it looks like it's called a mandatory stand-up talk filming on postal property. You see there's a logo there. My theory is that this is a memo that's based on the document that I'm going to show you in a minute that Basil got from a very good FOIA request that he did. And he got a very similar document, but I believe it's the master document. And I believe this document was changed a little bit, altered a little bit of text, and created for a meeting where they basically talk trash on people who are First Amendment auditors, because we know a lot of the people who worked at the post offices were getting upset and attacking the auditors or trying to grab their cameras. And there were a lot of problems, a lot of scuffles, and a lot of words being exchanged while the guy's just standing there with his camera. So Long Island Audits went ahead, and somebody somehow he got this. I'll let him explain what happened.
All right, guys. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this memo. Let's just get straight into it. So a postal employee sent me this anonymously. This is the memo right here. Let's take a look at it. So it's mandatory stand-up talk. This was issued by the United States Postal Inspection Service, filming on postal property. And as you could see right here, August 24th, 2022. So this is very recent, just, yesterday. So very, very recent. Recently, we've seen instances of people taking video outside postal service facilities. Some have even filmed inside our lobbies. These videos are posted to social media and attempt to capture our employees in argumentative situations, which cast the postal service in a negative light. First of all, my response to this is that you are responsible for your own actions. Your postal employees are responsible for their own actions. I can speak for myself. When I go inside a post office, I'm not agitating anyone. I'm not trying to bother anybody. So if you're going to act that way and you're going to go crazy and go postal, pun intended, that's on you. That's your decision. And that's what you plan on doing. I mean,
all right, so we get the idea. So he's got this document. It's from the post office. And now moving forward back to our slideshow. And by the way, we discussed the illegal spying program that Congress just exposed. It's on a video that I have on my channel. Take a look. It's called "Can I Sue the FBI for Illegally Labeling Me a Domestic Extremist?" You probably can't, but take a look at it. So we talked about the Long Island audit video, and that exposed what I consider to be a defamatory memo. I consider by inferences and through innuendo and pleading extrinsic facts, you sometimes can plead defamation without it being like a direct defamatory statement. Just by implication, someone can defame you. And so BZWatchdog went ahead and got this FOIA response, and you can see it's all redacted there. And the sections on the Long Island audits video were not redacted. So what BZWatchdog did is he went in with a pen and he filled in all the missing stuff based on what was on the Long Island audits memo. But you can see that this looks like the official United States Post Office memo up there on the left, like they would have used it for their master document or their copper plate, for lack of a better word, because this does come from DC, which is where, remember, the Leviathan always centralizes its tentacles from one spot. So I think that theory is probably true. And you see it says mandatory stand-up talk. So it was probably created for meetings like tailgate safety meetings. And then it says refrain, report, and resume. So what they're saying is, don't attack somebody, just call the cops or call 911 and just keep working. Don't do anything to these guys, because they're just pissed that they're getting filmed. They don't like it. A lot of these guys are sitting around flapping their jaws doing nothing. They don't want to be filmed, So, government employees, what do you expect? So, and I'm not saying that's the only reason they don't want to be filmed, but they have a right the auditors do have a right to film based upon certain time, place, and manner restrictions, which we'll go into. I'm not saying it's an absolute right. Okay, so we've got a redacted document. Okay, so we see that this is your government. Okay, I just want to show you your government. We know that secretly they're giving these documents out to postal workers, but when a citizen tries to get basically the same document, it's completely redacted. I just want to show you how absurd that is, that your own government, your servants, have become the master. So let's look at all the missing information that we presume would have been in the document that is in the redacted document. So you can see that BZ did a great job at finding everything, but basically they're saying if you see an auditor, don't approach, don't insist that they stop filming, don't ask them their names or who they represent, don't ask for press credentials, don't debate them or answer, don't use personal or work phones because that could be subpoenaed. It's just like there's a lawyer who wrote this, guys, because they probably were getting sick of being sued by these nutcases, or hey, stop filming me, man. You know, like grabbing their phones, going crazy. So call the Postal Inspector Service hotline. Only call 911 if there's an immediate safety concern. And we're going to talk about that again with Rye, because that's the problem. Is these interagency personnel, whatever agreements, and then we're going to let the inspection service or local law enforcement determine how best to handle it. Now, a lot of auditors are saying, well, no, that's not, you got to have a special agreement. Okay, we'll talk about that. Now we're going to talk real quick about group defamation. So there is a species of defamation called group defamation, and that's where a small class of people in some jurisdictions are able to sue based upon being a group. But a lot of people are like, well, what can you sue for? I don't see them saying that auditors are trying to kill me, or auditors are sexual predators. That's not what they're saying. They're just saying, do not approach. Basically, they could be dangerous. But that is painting someone to be a menace to society when they're engaged in a protected activity. So I don't like that. And here's what their memo says, and I believe this could be potentially actionable defamation if there aren't any defenses that the government can apply, and unfortunately there are, but let's talk about this. So actionable memo statements or assuming facts are the statements in the memo actionable because they are assuming facts. They're saying that the goal of the group is to elicit a response from postal employees, law enforcement, and others in order to record video confrontations and post them on social media sites. So that's assuming facts, and it's characterizing every auditor as somebody who basically wants to violate people and cause upheaval, that they're a bad person. Okay, I believe that could be potentially actionable. Now, it also is saying, thank you for helping us protect our people. So again, we've got this inference, this sort of extrinsic facts by other things that we know about what they're doing here. Is, with the FBI secret spying program, we know what's kind of going on. If you support the Bill of Rights, natural law, Constitution, believe that you were created and the government doesn't own you lock, stock, and barrel, that makes you a threat. So now we're talking about thank you for protecting our people. And what I'm saying is that through inducement, inference, and innuendo, that they're saying that auditors are potentially dangerous, do not approach. And I'm saying that this is a big corporate push that we have, with this corporatized education system, to force everybody to fit into the social sort of the social credit system. And this is a way of saying to banks and to government agencies and institutions and other people that these people who are engaged in these activities are nut jobs or crazy sovereign citizens. Don't approach them. Just call the police. Stop getting us sued over this. And basically, the greatest duty of all American citizens is to hold your government accountable. And one of the main ideas behind the First Amendment was to allow what is exactly happening with these people going out there, auditing, filming, trying to hold their public officials and public servants accountable. Some of them have been screwed under by cops and they have an axe to grind. Some have been screwed under by cops and don't want it to happen to someone else. They all have their own reasons, but law enforcement and the government should be trained to be able to deal with those situations. So really quickly, the problem is an auditor could be considered a public figure, and a public figure would have a much more difficult time suing for defamation, which would be a false statement about someone that's not true, that could hurt that person, that does in fact hurt that person and damages that person. It could be in the form of libel, or it could be in the form of slander. Libel is written defamation, slander is spoken. And so a public figure, it's harder for them to sue someone for defamation because they thrust themselves out into the public light. So, and there's another problem that it makes it highly unlikely that any of these auditors would be able to sue the post office, and that's because the memo, official proceeding, and fair report doctrine. And this is the situation, where you have people like Chuck Schumer or these other guys who get up and they'll just lie about someone and they can't be sued, even though they're lying. And people are like, well, they didn't get sued, so clearly it must be true, right? Because they would have been sued for defamation. Well, no. In a public proceeding, these guys lie about each other all the time, And the idea behind that is to encourage coverage of matters of public concern. And so if you write something in a document like that, it could be covered under what's called the fair report privilege or some other official government document type privilege that could protect wrongdoers from liability. This varies state by state. And so that's pretty much everything I've got to say about that. Now I wanted to just open up on the screen to start our next discussion. Hopefully y'all can see this right here. All right. So Ryan and BZ, go ahead and say anything that I haven't said that you guys want to say that I missed. And I got your document ready, guys, whenever you're ready.
I'm good on my end. I probably should have Ron explain the agreements between law enforcement agencies and how we can go about maybe checking to see if what it's called, so we can maybe do a FOIA from the post office regarding law enforcement agencies on who they have an agreement with.
Sounds like a great idea to me.
Yeah, and I was trying to look because that's something that we would have at a department, right? Like that's an agreement you would have. I'm trying to look up if there's a way to find. So they're called extra jurisdictional agreements, right? And
yep.
One municipality, say a county, would come into an agreement with, say, the city, and they would share extra jurisdictional an agreement saying that certain, like some of them, it'd be certain emergencies you can go in. Like if there's a pursuit, missing children, there's some other stuff, kidnappings, stuff like that. And they'll make the agreements just for that. Now, apparently, so it's got to be kind of weird with the post office, because I was telling BZ earlier that they'll rent places all the time. It's like they'll rent little bitty areas inside a store, right?
Yeah.
It's the post office will, or they'll rent a small building or a small area in a building. And then the police can come and they can be all the way up to the door, according to the documents, I'm guessing, right? But they couldn't go in.
Yeah.
So that's when you would have to have that extra jurisdictional agreement in place.
Okay, so I guess let's lay a foundation too. So are we in accord then that federal and state and local, well, federal and state for sure, there's going to be a jurisdictional divide. A federal enclave is going to be a federally controlled area, similar to like a Indian reservation where it's got its own.
Oh yeah, no, we had two, and they had no problem coming to the gate and going, "Go away."
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay. You showed up, and they said that we don't want your help.
So there's a fun thing they do to rookies in the county that I was in.
Yeah.
They have one of those really neat mountains. This is close to DC, right? It's one of those really neat mountains with a helicopter pad on top, and it's got the AT&T logo on it.
Yep.
And if you drive up the driveway, men in Suburbans with MP5s will come at you.
Okay. Well, there you go. And
so they take rookies and go, hey, just go up this road over here. Yeah, take a left, take a right. And they get, a mile up this dirt road, and all of a sudden, they're bailing out.
Big Willie says hi, Rye, by the way.
Oh, hey.
All right, so guys, I wanted to lay that foundation that the federal enclaves, federal areas that are set aside, that is for all intents and purposes like an embassy, because remember, the states are their own country, and the federal government is its own country, and they have unless we're otherwise provided by law. I mean, we have a 9th Amendment, a 10th Amendment. People really need to learn the Constitution, and so you cannot bring a handgun on federal property unless you have permission from the federal property when it's a federal enclave like that. Now, I know that I've gone shooting at Camp Pendleton and they've let me bring it on, but I always ask the MPs before, and they've had 3-gun competitions there. So I know you can do it, but as far as having an actual agreement, I mean, a guy coming onto a military base isn't going to be able to get an interagency agreement. This has to do with law enforcement. And federal has its own laws and its own laws to enforce. When you come onto the U.S. Post Office and you murder someone, you're going to be going to a federal trial. You're going to be going through like a central or southern or northern district court situation, a criminal court, federally, because you're on federal land. So it's different. So when you have local law enforcement, let me take him away so we can see you. When you have, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong ever, because I don't know everything, but if you have federal law enforcement, they should be enforcing federal law. Now, there are sometimes emergency situations or exigent circumstances type agreements where they will allow the local agencies to come. But typically, they're not properly trained to handle things the same way the feds would want to handle it. In the feds' minds, they kind of think they're superior to everyone. As a general rule, from what I've heard from people that I know, I think that's pretty fair. And I think that because of that, these interagency agreements probably make sense because it makes the federal government feel like they're insulated from any kind of problems because both agencies sort of have an understanding. And I have one up on the screen. I can't make it any bigger than it is, unfortunately. Let me see if I can. Is that a little better? Now, I know I lost you guys on the screen, but now I can at least, hopefully people can see it. So this is an actual agreement. And BZ, do you want to tell us how you found this?
Just found it on just pretty much Googled it in there and found a website that kind of gives you some examples of agencies that have actually filed, and they're on the web. Some of them are as far back as 2001, and I think that one I got there was 2017, which was the newest one. I always seem to find that a lot of these agencies only like list stuff publicly on their sites like 5 or 7 years back. I can't find them newer.
Yep. Well, I'm going to go. So, by the way, guys, I know he thinks it's no big deal. Like, I know BZ's like, oh, no big deal. I just looked it up on the internet. But really, doing legal research and finding stuff on Google is not that easy for someone who doesn't have legal training. It really takes a lot. And not every, he's kind of a natural at this. So give him some credit, guys. Give me a bunch of ones and thank him for doing this research. And I'm not saying that I could have even found it, but for me to take the time when I'm already struggling to get work done in my practice to do these meetings with you guys, it's really, really helpful. And it really helps me share information that I know you're never going to learn from anyone else. So what I want to do really quick, give him a bunch of ones and thank him, is explain what this is. This is called a interlocal agreement among Spokane County and the Spokane County Sheriff. Okay. Now, Now you're saying, is this between the post office?
No. That's just like an example of.
Got it. This is an example. Okay. So this is an example of something that the city and the county have. And that.
Right. Let me give an example here. And I talked to Ryan about this earlier today. In Texas, there's a town called Coffee City, 250 people population. They had 50 police officers for the city of 250 people.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one for every 5 people. That's a lot of cops. But there was a lot of corruption and all kinds of crimes happening and theft of timesheets and people lying about their time actually being there. So the city council decided to disband the police department.
Okay.
Well, now that they don't have a local police department, the next thing they have to do is inside the county is sign an agreement with the sheriff's department with that city, which is something similar to this agreement here.
No, you're right. Absolutely. And I agree. And I'm going to take over because I want to blast through this because this is a great example. This is an example of where the county and the city have to, figure out, because neither one of them has jurisdiction unless it's by agreement. Remember, a municipal corporation is restricted to its municipal corporation agreement, as is the municipal county type corporation. So they're all municipal corporations and they have to vote on things. And so a local law enforcement agency isn't going to automatically just be able to walk onto federal property, nor do the taxpayers pay them to do that. So they have to basically form what I call a treaty, or you guys would call a interlocal agreement. I just call it a treaty. You've got these 2 sovereign agencies, and they're agreeing that they're going to do or not do certain things under this agreement. And this agreement, basically, this is very similar to what you would have with a post office. You would have to have your local city council or your your local sheriff's department. You probably have to have the sheriff sign off on it. There would probably have to be a study done to make sure, it talks about when it's going to start. It's going to start at 12:01, the date of execution. It's going to run through midnight until 2018. And then we're going to have another vote then. And the board has all voted and agreed to it. And, it goes through recitals. The city will mean this, the county purpose of this agreement. So it's got limited purposes, and they're limited in duration and what you can do, when you can terminate it. So this is the kind of thing, how much they're going to cost. Like if I'm going to come send cops to the post office, you're going to have to reimburse me. This ain't going to be free, bub, or whatever it might be. There's going to be a billing procedure. How are you going to pay us if we do have to send the cops out? Penalties for not paying us. See all that, guys?
Yeah, so Mike, it almost sounds like an alarm and security company.
Yeah, well, okay. I don't want to have to keep showing the whole thing. But what I wanted to point out, everybody, is that
cops are really rent-a-cops. Ain't that right, Ryan? Come on, admit it. Oh.
But what I want...
Kind of like that alarm call earlier today with that agreement.
Well,
more agreements.
What I wanted to point out is that you have a situation here where you can have an agreement between the state and the federal government, which is its own government, like an embassy almost. But there's going to be a process for that. And the reason being is because who's going to reimburse the police department? Who's going to reimburse the city or the county or the state if they're going to be doing law enforcement on a federal facility, and vice versa? And so BZ, yeah, that's right. And he found that really cool form. Now I invite all of you guys who are watching this to please try and do legal research on your own like that. Obviously, you're doing it for educational reasons, not to try to use in a lawsuit or go and file something. No, to learn how to do research, educate yourselves so you know what lawyers are doing. And you kind of saw what he did. Try to find one, try to find an agreement, or better yet, tune in next week. And then because BZ and I are going to do a show on how to do a FOIA and how to do a local Freedom of Information Act style request. So you can start getting and asking for this information. So you can start becoming active yourselves instead of sitting on the sidelines looking at somebody who's got 200,000 followers who doesn't know what the heck they're doing. Like, start learning how to do it yourself and come on here and get educated and learn. And so basically, American Texan, you are saying that apparently, at least on some of the duties that you did, there were agreements like that between federal and state or local agencies. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us about that.
I mean, even so much to the fact that we had one that was the post office was in a city-owned building. So figure out how to get that one, right? Okay. So who has jurisdiction?
Federal. Because the minute the federal agency leased it, it became a public forum for the post office.
Now,
I would agree with that.
Is that just inside it, or does that include curtilage around it?
I would say inside the building, just where the length of the building is, in the doorway and out the doorway.
It depends it depends on the curtilage too. I mean, if it's fenced, obviously that's going to be different.
Okay, so how about it's a walkway where it's just 4 steps and a big stoop where a bunch of homeless people like to hang out?
Right, there's going to have to be. Yeah, it's going to be hard to know. Yeah,
it's
sign that agreement.
That's why they have them.
Yeah. That makes sense, and that's why those agreements, I think, are so well defined. You saw that thing; it was 30 pages, and it spells out everything.
I'm still trying to look up other stuff. I'm finding out there's all kinds of other terms. It's not just extra jurisdictional agreements. Yeah. You've got, what was the one you used?
Well, there's interagency, interjurisdictional. The thing is look, every jurisdiction, you got state and federal. Like, for example, in New York, they'll call a superior court, an unlimited jurisdiction superior court, the Supreme Court. Well, in California, we only have one Supreme Court, and it's our highest court. And we call superior courts of unlimited jurisdiction superior court. And then we have like a limited jurisdiction court, which is sort of like the old municipal courts that handle like traffic infractions and like a traffic court, that kind of thing. But so they all serve a similar or almost identical purpose, but they might have a different name. So like, for example, in California, we might call it a depublished case. In a federal jurisdiction or Louisiana, they might call it an unpublished case. But either way, it's going to be treated the same if you try to cite it for any kind of real authority, unless you really have like some rare situation. So Let's
Well,
see.
I'll mess you up even more. So I don't know about Nevada and California, but do you have county cops going into the city to enforce laws?
Yeah, in fact, they have primary jurisdiction. Like in LA, the LA County Sheriff overlaps into any municipal corporation. So they basically are like the top dogs if they want to be, and then the state police would be over them.
Okay. Yeah, because that's kind of how. So when I was in Virginia, the county rarely came into the city. Like it was just one of those deals.
They can. Right? I mean, they can't. But again, if you look at the city and county budgets and where it is, the size of the forces, they may not want to. They already got their own municipal PD. We're not going in there. We can raise plenty of revenue out in the rural areas without having to go into the city. And you got
So you've got one post office, and you can have jurisdiction for I don't know what 5 different agencies in one place. Because so if you go with SA in San Antonio, right? You got San Antonio. You got the Bexar County Sheriff, you got the Bexar County Constable's Office, then you've got the SAPD, then you've got federal, DHS. Yeah. I mean, they're all here. They're all
immigration.
Yep. Well, so ICE actually has a field office here, and they have an investigations unit here too. So they go on drug busts and do interdiction and all kinds of stuff.
That makes sense. So you can see everybody.
So here was my question about it, because mostly from what I understand, USPS doesn't have their own canine units, and they would hire from agencies, like off-duty gigs. They would have somebody come in for $50 an hour to, go sniff packages.
Yeah.
So would they all have to have the same extra jurisdictional agreement? If he does, indicate or say, hey, the dog says this box, who do they call? Do they need to call the federals or, the federales?
Yep.
The feds or what? Who are they calling?
Well, they're going to call whoever they can.
Those guys are general office. Those guys investigate and a lot of them aren't sworn either, but they investigate shady postmen.
Yeah. No, you're right. I get it, but without an interjurisdictional or an interagency type of relationship, it is a problem because the local municipal authorities don't want to do it. They're not getting paid for it. The federal government's not going to issue them a check for showing up. And I think that a lot of the local jurisdictions probably want those agreements more than the post office does. The post office, I believe the postmaster generals do allow it. I think they do have armed personnel there, the postal inspectors. I think they're armed.
Postal police.
You put it in the comments.
They have postal police. The inspectors are. I don't think the inspectors are police.
I mean, put it in the comments if I'm wrong. But
inspectors are 2 different.
Yeah.
Put it in the comments if you guys know. Does the federal government, does the post office have a security guard arrangement, or do most of them just have? Does anybody have a copy of one of these interagency, federal, state, local cop? Shoot me a link. Give it to Basil. I want to share it with everybody because that's really interesting. Yeah, who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for the cops showing up? I mean, how do you do that? Have you ever dealt with that before, Ryan?
Who's got to pay for it?
So, I mean, on the street, most we've dealt with is the homeless people going and being, oh, you know what? They would. Yeah, we would kick people out. Now, the other question is,
violator.
City would have to have barring authority, right? So to bar somebody off of that premises. But they would have to get that from the inspector general, is what you're saying. So, I mean, I really hope we had it. Otherwise, people literally broke federal law, right?
Well, right. And then also, even if there wasn't a law broken, if the local cop showed up and they had to respond to a scene and spend a lot of resources, how would that be reimbursed? How would you do that? Have you ever seen or heard of anything like that during your time out there, where somebody has to get reimbursed?
Oh, yeah. You want to talk about the way money goes? The last big riot we had.
Yeah, who pays for that? Yeah.
So it starts off. It has to start off at the state level, and they have to request for an emergency to be declared, and then they can request funds.
Okay. So basically, it would be a situation where you would go to the cops and say there was an emergency, and you would go to the state first, or would you go to the federal government first? The state,
I don't know. So usually when we have big stuff go on, right, it would go state first. So I think McAuliffe at the time was the one who declared a state of emergency.
Yeah.
And I mean, they had the state, I want to call them a militia, but they're not, the state army, the National Guard there. We had state police, city police. In the next couple of years they did it. I mean, we had them coming from other cities. So I really don't know how that works because there's been a lot of instances. You take when Katrina went through Louisiana, you had cops and federal officers from here going there to enforce laws.
Yep.
I mean, how do they get away with doing those on the fly?
Yeah, I guess the real problem is, here we would have a state and federal one where you'd have to go directly to the federal government, I guess, to try to get reimbursement, and they could always turn around and go, "We had no agreement with you. What are you doing sending cops over there?" Like, it could become a problem depending on who the city council is, depending on if it's a liberal or a conservative and their mindset. See what I mean? Like, there's no uniformity in how any of this stuff gets handled. So I could see why, like, Long Island Audits and these other guys are like, well, where's the agreement? Where's it spelled out? I mean, I want you guys to do FOIA requests and try to get some copies of these agreements. I think that would be a really great way to learn more about your rights and how these things are really handled. Now, really quick, Shock Prof says, get a hold of Russell, like Just Gold, David Windmiller's partner, Grand Master about postal companies. I'll check it out. I'll do my best to try to understand what you mean, but if I need more clarification, I'll ask for it. All right. So BZ, now you've done some audits at the post office, right? I mean, I think I saw you do one.
I've done one. I think I've done 3.
Yeah. And now generally, you hear a lot of people say, well, there's this thing on the wall that says you're not allowed to film. And I wanted you to kind of tell us, like, how are you guys dealing with those comments?
No. It doesn't say that you can't film.
I'm just telling you, that's what I'm hearing. Like all these, like, what do they call them, frauditors or whatever?
Yeah, you can't believe everything you read on.
No, I don't believe it. I want your side. I want to hear, like, why are they saying
just like I'm a French model? You can't believe that. Just because it's on the internet.
Okay, but why are they saying it in that chart? What chart are they talking about?
They are talking about the poster 7. Do you need me to send you the poster 7 to?
Yeah, shoot me over a copy of poster 7.
Okay, just give me like 10 seconds. I'm sending it over. Yeah. I gotta hide this real quick.
Yeah, no problem. So BZ is going to go ahead and he's going to go ahead and get us the poster 7. This, I guess, is that laminated poster that's at the post office. Kind of like, when you go to the workplace and they have all these things on it, like occupational hazards and how to report a claim.
Hides behind the glass.
All right, hold on. Let me get this going here.
No, I said it hides behind the glass. But here, hang on. I'm sending it to you right.
So they put it behind a glass box or something, I guess. Then
like a glass case. Like that hangs on the wall, like where permits and licenses would. I just sent that to you.
Okay. Just keep telling us about what it is and your interpretation of it. And as soon as
there's no interpretation, man. It's just clearly stated. I'll use, since Ryan does photography, I'll go ahead and reference him in a second when I'm done reading this. But this says photographs for news, advertising, or commercial purposes. Okay. So that's for news, advertising, or commercial. The commercial means like where you'd have to where you're paying somebody or you're paying for the set and things like that, where you got to go get a film permit, and that's commercial purposes, because somebody's getting paid for using like the likeness and all that stuff in like an ad or something. But this says photographs for news purposes, which I think freedom of the press falls under news purposes, doesn't it?
let me try to find.
It's on the third column, third one from down, right above dogs and other animals. Right there.
Okay, so I'll read it if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, photographs for news, advertising, or commercial purposes. Photographs for news purposes may be taken in entrances, lobbies, foyers, corridors, or auditoriums for public meetings, except or when used or auditoriums when the auditorium is used for a public meeting, except where prohibited by official signs or security force personnel or other authorized personnel or a federal court order or a rule. Other photographs may be taken only with the permission of the local postmaster or installation head. Well, by golly, that pretty much clears it up for me. I mean, it doesn't sound like you have any, like you're not allowed. It sounds like they'd try to have to hit you with something else like loitering or public disturbance. They try to have to come up, then you might be able to sue them for chilling a free speech right. What do you think, Ryan?
Well,
actually, I read that completely backwards. I think it says, oh, you can film in these places unless somebody says you can't.
Well, that too, but it says clearly it's for if it's for advertising or commercial purposes, you cannot. You have less freedom. You have less freedom for that, and you have more freedom for for news and stuff like that. Yeah.
It just says except where prohibited by official signs, security personnel, or other authorized personnel, or federal court order.
Nope, that's where he's missing this part. See where it says other photographs may be taken? That's behind restricted access.
Yeah, that's all
with
that is.
Permission. That's another one that's with permission.
With permission. Restricted access with permission is basically what that last line is saying.
Okay, but read this right here. So
it's allowed in the right there.
This is misleading, guys. It says photographs for news, advertising, or commercial purposes. And then here's what it says. Photographs for news purposes.
1A, baby.
So what's that?
But there's an except in that sentence. That's my problem with it. That real big except, everything after that except, the last half of that paragraph is everybody can tell you that you can't do it.
Well, you're not reading it correctly, actually.
That's I mean, go ahead.
That's why they have that word. That's why they have that word or, not and, or.
Okay, here, I'm going to read this to you like a lawyer, okay? Photographs for news, advertising, or commercial purposes, all right? So news purposes are not commercial. News is public dissemination of information. Advertising is a commercial purpose. So it's okay. So advertising, like if you want to go ahead and film a movie, you want to do a TV commercial, you got to get a permit to do that. But if you're just taking pictures because you want to film the inside of a post office for a news story you're doing, you're allowed to do that. Okay. I just want you guys to understand the difference. It even says right here without saying it, because they're so dumb, it says photographs for news purposes. So this, what they're saying is the only photographs in my interpretation that you're allowed to freely go into public areas is if it's for news. If it's for advertising or commercial, you can't, because it doesn't say photographs for news and advertising. No, it says photographs for news. So if you go in there, read the whole thing. For news purposes may be taken in entrances, lobbies, foyers, corridors, or auditoriums.
And then look, now there's an or auditoriums.
When it's used for public meetings, except where prohibited by an official sign or security force or authorized personnel, court order, or rule. So I know what Ryan's saying. He's saying, well, yeah, they can restrict it, and they can, but they have to have a court order or rule in place, and it has to be posted as an official sign, and there has to be an official security force personnel or authorized person who enforces that court order or rule. Now it says that other photographs may be taken only with permission. And yeah, obviously, if you want to go inside the inner workings of the post office, right? If you want to go in the back, because, they might have, like money. I know they have money orders at the post office, and there's money there, right? I mean, they got money, they got cash, they got valuable packages, perhaps. Yeah. So, they can't go back there unless they have some special approval. But so you guys talk to me. I mean, tell me what you think about this, because this is the first time I've seen this.
Well, what I want you to do before we talk about it, go to the second column.
Okay.
To the very top where it says specific restrictions.
Okay, so I'm at the second column.
Specific
Conformity.
restrictions.
I see conformity with signs.
No. Look at right under specific restrictions.
Specific restrictions right here.
Now look how they consider disturbances. They even go to actually defining it for you.
Okay, let me read it to you. So specific restrictions, disturbances, disorderly conduct or conduct that creates a loud or unusual noise or which impedes entrance or departure or otherwise obstructs the usual use of entrances, foyers, corridors, offices, elevators, stairways, parking lots, or which otherwise tends to impede or disturb the public or employees. Okay, so here's what it says. Which otherwise tends to impede, disturb the public employees in the performance of their duties, or which otherwise impedes, disturbs the general public in transacting business is prohibited. So we've seen in these videos that the police are using the fact that people are upset that you're filming as a legal basis to violate you. And I wanted to know what Ryan thinks about that, because I obviously think that's absolutely absurd. So,
well, so it depends on which part do you think is absurd? Like, because impeding people, I mean, it's just like a doorway is treated literally like a roadway, except for the fact if you're blocking people from going in or out, you could be considered as abducting the people that are in the place.
Yeah, but what I guess, what I'm saying is they're not. So what the post office is doing is they're saying, and the police are saying, is the mere fact that you're filming, even though you're not blocking, even though you're not impeding anything, you're just standing over in the corner. The mere fact that you're filming and people are upset saying, stop filming, and they're trying to grab the camera out of your hand. They're saying that under this section, that disturbs or impedes the general public in transacting business. They're literally saying when you get arrested that you violated this section because of filming. And by virtue of the fact that you're filming at all, that caused a public disturbance that's now caused like a riot or something. And clearly it's a First Amendment protected activity. So when I say it's ridiculous, I'm saying it's ridiculous on the basis that you can't violate someone for not violating the initial blockage. So when you look at how statutes and codes are generally written, there's going to be a history. And you'll typically have like a violation, an enforcement, and a punishment. And so first you have to establish the violation. And here the violation would be obstructing, delaying, blocking, yelling, making lots of noise, something that would normally interfere with someone. But standing in the corner, not being in anyone's way and filming doesn't rise to that level. Instead, people on their own accord are bringing themselves into this so-called zone of danger, trying to grab your camera, trying to get crazy. The postal workers are yelling at you, threatening that their crip or blood homeboy cousin is going to come and take you out. And it's causing a lot of trouble. And now they've got these memos going around because they know something bad's going to happen. But in the process, they're painting the auditors as like crazy people. And what I'm saying is, well, no. Let's look at this. The real people that are causing the disturbance are the people that aren't allowing this guy, who are government employees generally, to engage in a First Amendment protected activity. Now, that's my side of the argument. I want to know what your side would be as a reasonable, objective law enforcement officer, because I want to know what your side would think. If
you want to know how I would answer, how about this? Now
that you read this, not before, but now that you actually know there's stuff in place, now take it from your side from law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, that makes it pretty easy. Oh man, it clear as mud. You could arrest somebody.
So you're saying that if you're
causing disturbance, your mere presence, just like mine. I show up in front of BZ and he gets all butthurt because, oh my God, the police are in my presence.
Okay, that's fair. Right? I don't think so, but
no, I'm just saying that's the kind of the way it reads, though, right?
But wouldn't under Texas law too? Wouldn't you be kind of inciting fighting words doing something like that though? If you were saying something to somebody just holding a camera, I mean.
They're the one causing the other guy is the one causing the disturbance, not the guy.
That's why I get battered. I'm filming, but yet they're battering me. But how am I causing the disturbance?
Yeah, but then you go to the line where it's people it's distracting other people, right? That's how they kind of get past it. Look, I'm not agreeing with the feds on this.
I wish he could just get over the cops planning, because he's trying to find the answer like a cop, hoping the answer comes out of thin air.
Well, Kevin says you're wrong. So
I look, I want to tell you how I would handle the call, right?
Yeah.
Because
wait, before you do, Ryan, since he's talking about how he would handle the call, do me a favor real quick and show this poster 7 before he makes his statement and sees if he says anything different. Bottom right-hand side where it says enforcement.
Okay, stand by.
And then we'll let you answer that question.
All right.
Hold on, let me get this. This is really great. I really appreciate this. Is real stuff, guys. This is stuff that's valuable. I really appreciate this. This is the good stuff.
Where it says enforcement, bottom right-hand, there you go, right there.
Just trying to get it nice so everybody can see it real good. All right, I'm going to read this to you. Enforcement. Security force personnel will exercise the powers under 18 U.S.C. 3061 C2 and are responsible for enforcing the regulations in this notice in a manner that will protect U.S. Postal Service property. I love how it's always about protecting property. Postmasters or installation heads may, with the approval of the Chief Postal Inspector or designee, enter into agreements with state and local enforcement agencies to ensure enforcement of the regulations in a manner that will protect U.S. Postal Service property. Postal inspectors, Office Inspector General, special agents, and anyone designated by the Chief Postal Inspector may also enforce these regulations. So that's pretty cool. So it definitely says you're supposed to have an enforcement agreement, and it says security force personnel. So that, and it's also a specific code section, 18 USC 306 sub C sub 2. And so generally speaking, local law enforcement personnel probably don't even have training in enforcing that federal code section. That could be a problem. You tell me, Ryan, how do you feel about that theory of mine?
That is a very, very big code section.
Yeah.
So I've already pulled it up, the 183061.
Yes,
and
sir.
that it all talks about the investigative powers. It doesn't talk about arrest powers.
Right.
Go to subsection C2.
Yeah, 3061 sub C sub 2. That's where you should find.
Because a postal inspector has a badge, a gun, and a pair of cuffs.
So with respect to such property, such officers shall have the power to enforce federal laws and regulations for the protections of persons and property, carry firearms, and make arrests without a warrant for any offense against the United States. Oh, any offense.
Ding, 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 ding. Winner, winner,
Okay.
chicken dinner.
So we know that the Postal Service has the authority to enforce their own laws. But my question also, Rye, was...
But that goes with... You said with anybody they have an agreement with. They shall have an agreement with them.
Yeah, but the agreement usually is going to be based on them getting some training in how to enforce that section. That would be my guess. I mean, our typical municipal cop, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't going to be walking into a post office and enforce 18 USC or whatever. He's going to be enforcing a local code section,
local code,
even though he's on a federal property. And now as a lawyer, I'm
going to get a pretextual stop for, because that's all he knows.
As a lawyer, I'm going to file a demur, and I'm going to get that case thrown out of city court, because they didn't have the jurisdiction to write that violation because it was on a federal enclave. They didn't have any jurisdiction there. So that's the way I would handle it as a lawyer. I just want you guys to understand, or move to strike perhaps. And federal might be a 12B6 or something similar, motion to strike.
Now, my other question about this, Mike, is this is the other thing that the cops have been doing. Since it's not disorderly, they trespass.
Yeah, in the trespass laws, I mean, you can be trespassed apparently from government property, but I think they call it like, breach of peace or something like that. But the idea is that in a public building or public area, there are going to be reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to avoid causing a public disturbance or causing problems. Some jurisdictions are more liberal than others when it comes to the exercise of these rights in public areas like parks. Definitely sidewalks are green. They're good to go unless you're causing a disturbance. There's always, if you're disturbing other people, it's no longer speech, guys. It's a disturbance. It loses it's just like defamation in my mind isn't really speech. It's not protected speech. It's something else. It's just like, child pornography. It's not really speech. It's child pornography. It's not protected as speech. So why call it speech? That's the way I look at it. But I mean, it's evil speech. It's Luciferian speech. Okay, so here we go. So it says here, local police without a contract, good citizen, thank you, are not allowed without an enforcement agreement. And everybody, first of all, give me a bunch of ones if you missed Chili. Look on yesterday's video in the description for Chili's fundraiser link. I haven't looked yet, but I'm hoping somebody has donated some more money, trying to raise money for his second case, which I think he'll have much better chances on.
Yeah, hey Mike, we've made it. We've gotten another $295 raised on that fundraiser.
Oh, that's terrific, guys. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate you guys showing love like that to someone who you don't even probably know. So that says a lot about your character to me. Let me see here. Yeah, give me a bunch of ones, guys. Bunch of ones. Yeah, give me a bunch of OTVOs. And
I put the link up for the fundraiser, and I'm doing it one more time.
Very cool. So I appreciate everybody showing up. I know that it's, Sunday, so we'll have like 55 people in here, but make sure to like and subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit that like button. And check out Chili's trifold too. There's a lot of good stuff in his trifold and his cop cards, which I do carry in my car, even though I'm a lawyer, because even I get spooked. Hey man, when I get pulled over, especially if I'm carrying, which I would never admit to, but if I am carrying, I don't want to get shot. So I'm a little worried, because there's always a chance. Yeah. If I'm carrying them, especially in my car, because I've seen videos, where they're, they see a gun, and I tend to carry open, right there in my center console, because I'm going to be in a state that it's legal to do that.
If I recall, in Nevada, though, as long as you've got your holster on your hip and you've got the gun in the holster, as long as you don't have a jacket over it or covering it, you can actually do that with open carry in the car.
Oh yeah, that's totally true. But the idea is you're still a potential threat, and if they're
I'm sure Ryan would rather have it in the holster than on the center console.
I don't want to be perceived as a threat.
You don't have people shoot themselves.
Yeah, I'm going to conceal. I'm going to Israeli draw first of all. That's the only tactical thing I'll admit to. And I'm only going to conceal carry in public, but in my car, I want to be able to carry a nice big 45 right there with a round in the chamber in my center console ready to go.
Yeah, but
I'm going to conceal. I'm always going to be
brandishing of firearms
because I'm doing a striker fire. I'm doing a striker fire with no safeties, anyways, concealed. Yeah. So that's dangerous. I'm just going to do Israeli draw. As a general rule, I doubt I'm going to have to be within 5 or 6 feet of some attacker. It's going to be something's going down, someone's being threatened, and I'm going to probably have to come and help out. That's my figure.
Well, so most officers,
like
you're trained when you go for traffic stops.
Yeah,
they're trained. There's a gun in every car.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know the old, we put our fingerprints on the back. That's why we touch it. We touch it because then there's proof that we were there.
Touch it with the DNA. Touch it with the DNA.
Oh man, I make sure the trunk is shut so you don't have trunk monkey jumping out with a gun.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. I've seen that. Yeah, a million times. Yeah.
So there's usually. Man, there was a time right after 9/11, so I was still a kid. Remember, if you had a concealed carry license, you handed it over.
Yeah.
Sorry, somebody just put something up. You handed that over. Oh, you could slide on a speeding ticket. They're like, if you were a veteran or in the military after 9/11, you could do no wrong. I miss those days.
Yeah, in California, it was the 1199 Foundation. It's a CHP thing, so you won't get pulled over if you have that on your license plate.
Yeah.
But
I donated to the POA or whatever.
Look, guys, it's real simple. Just don't get pulled over. Just honestly, just don't get pulled over. I mean, you just don't do it. Now, if you're engaged in a First Amendment protected activity, you're going to be putting yourself at risk because you've seen now that the U.S. Post Office, our own FBI, NSA are targeting people who support natural law, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, natural rights, the concept that your rights come from an all-powerful creator that cannot be restricted or taken away by the government. That's why they hate you so much.
Well, you can see that 3 hours ago in my last video. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah. By the way, check out BZWatchdog's
I'll put the link up.
Latest video and go to BZWatchdog's channel. Make sure to like and subscribe and share these videos with people because this is really cool educational stuff. And you've got a panel of experts volunteering their time. Make sure to check out BZWatchdog, like and subscribe to his channel. Make sure to subscribe to the American Texan, like and subscribe to his channel. And then I don't know what we've got going on for tomorrow. I'll talk about it with BZ. My intentions are to see Chile on Wednesday and give you guys an update about that. I'm going to be really busy the next week or so. So these sessions aren't going to be able to go probably for even up to an hour, at least for a few days. But it looks like that's pretty much it. We don't really have, it's a Sunday. We'll just cut it out. I want to thank you, Ryan, for coming on. I want to thank you, BZ. And guys, if you have anything to say to anybody before I close it down.
Just a shout out to everybody that's watching now, everybody that's been emailing me, texting me, calling me, and enjoying the live stream when I go live, watching, chasing down the jackboot thug pigs. Jackboot thug pigs.
And Ryan, if you got anything to say.
No, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. So with that being said, I want to tell you, I appreciate y'all coming out today to support me and Doogie from the Leathernecks Motorcycle Club. He's a former combat medic, combat corpsman / he became a Navy SEAL as well. And he's a buddy of mine. And I really appreciate y'all coming out and supporting him. He picked up like 5 or 6 subscribers. So please make sure to go check out that video from earlier today and make sure to like and subscribe to him and support the Paul Ehline Memorial Ride event coming up on the 18th. And that's going to be with me and the Leathernecks. They're going to do a motorcycle ride, and we're going to support veterans who are suffering from service-related cancer and PTSD. And we're going to need some help to get me out there. So any donations to the GoFundMe that's on that video would be very greatly appreciated. It's through a military veterans nonprofit corporation that we set up for my father who died from Agent Orange several years ago. Okay, so with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, and make sure to save it to your computer also, because you never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. And Semper Fi,